my coffee cup stuff off.
Nope, we're good. Go.
LC Tiger Sports Live welcome then Coach Casey Moeller for a Week 9 conversation about the Delta Panthers. But first we'll go back. Coach, you played Evergreen, a team that, had been struggling. But, when you watch the film prior to the game and then you watch the film after the game, there was some nice takeaways. Evergreen played hard on defense. They presented some things for you and then, that I think challenged you, and you guys kind of challenged yourself a little bit to prepare yourself for the last part of this regular season. Talk a little bit about the Evergreen game and the things you got to take away from it.
Well, watching the film on Evergreen, we knew that defensively they really run to the ball well, and that's sometimes half the battle on defense. So, we knew they were going to get to the ball, they were going to run and put pressure on us and blitz a little bit and things like that. And so we wanted to work on a couple things that maybe we haven't had to do a lot of this year. Some of our counter game, a little bit more passing, and I think we threw the ball 15 times. And so it was good to work on that and to kind of see some areas we needed to continue to improve there. And it just put ourselves in some situations that we haven't had to be in this year, so that down the road, if we're in those again, we're comfortable being in those.
So when you almost self-impose some situations a little bit, you did some good subbing, got a lot of reps for some your 2 and 3 depth chart guys, which I think is really good. But there were some things I think you would say we didn't like the interceptions. We struggled maybe from time to time on blitz pickup. Some things, understanding that you were also doing some of these things to yourself to see, almost stress testing yourself. Talk about some things that concerned you a little bit. We don't usually talk about that because you had such a clean year being 8-0, but we all watched it and saw some things that we hadn't been used to seeing. This was probably a net good thing. What were some of your net takeaways on maybe the negative side this week you want to work on?
Well, like you said, Coach Miller and Coach Amstutz were not real happy with our blitz pickup a couple times. I don't know that we, were terrible, but just some things that, if you want to play with the big boys, you got to be ready to pick those things up. There were a couple play calls I wasn't happy with myself with, where we put our quarterback in a situation that, we probably couldn't pick up the blitz like we normally could have, and they ended up in some sacks. The interceptions were just, decisions trying to make plays, but we have to understand the situation sometimes. So, but I think coming out of that, I think we're further ahead than we were going in because we've seen the situation. We know what we need to do now. We can see what happens if we don't do the right thing, and hopefully we become better because of it.
If I was a defensive coordinator against Liberty Center, being kind of a long-time defensive assistant, you guys are pretty ferocious in the run game. You really block it well up front. Your backs just run just with an intensity that is just next level for sure. And I would really want to really do my best to stop the run. And if you get up against a team that matches your physicality, and you kind of saw that last year, I think, with South Range a little bit. How do you feel about your passing game? I know there's confidence there, and I know there's really competent players there, but we never talk about Liberty Center passing. Let's have a whole day on the spread passing attack of Liberty Center. But maybe talk a little bit about the things you're looking for as you get into the playoff. You start to look forward a little bit, although you've got a big game this week against Delta, then Wauseon will threaten you. Talk about your passing game a little bit.
Well, if we look at just some of the numbers, I think we're averaging about 8 passes a game, which, that's not very much. Some receivers are catching 8 passes a game. Part of that is, we get into the second half. We've had running clocks 7 out of the 8 weeks. We're not going to throw the ball around. So our numbers are down there. So we have to continue to work on it. We're pretty happy with our play action game. We think we've got some weapons with, our wing backs and ends and things, backs out of the backfield. We just haven't had a lot of opportunity to sit back in the pocket, spread things out, and throw. We've done it a couple times. If you look at the numbers too, our completion percentage, we're up over 60%, which is, probably better than what, my goal would be. Prior to taking over as the head coach, I think for 30 years our pass percentage, completion percentage was around 40%. And I wanted to get it up above 50%, and we've done a great job of that over the years. And now we're hovering around 60% or better, which is great. And I think Ryan Miller and Chris Riggy do a great job working with quarterbacks and receivers and making sure our timing and stuff is on par. And then, Nick Miller and Paul Amstutz work with the line on the protection. And, we gave up some sacks this week, but overall for the season, we haven't given up a lot of sacks. And if you go back a couple of years, our protection has been very good. Some of that is because of our running game helping us and things like that, but we've done a good job with pass protection over the years, and we just need to continue to get better. We're not going to ever be perfect, but we can always work to get better.
Well, it's certainly something to talk about. I mean, our fan base doesn't see a lot of it, but it was very effective against Patrick Henry. I think 7 for 7 for 96 yards. So no doubt when you're running the football that well, your passing game certainly opens up. Let's talk briefly about Delta. You got a chance to break them down against Patrick Henry. You guys have, obviously they're struggling a little bit, but you guys in your preparation take everything to level 5, DEFCON 5 in preparation. Talk about the Rubel kid. I think he's a good player. They're certainly committed to running the football. They do some things in the run game that if you're not disciplined reading keys and doing the things you're supposed to do on assignment football, it can be problematic. What do you see from Delta?
Well, just what you said. I think they're going to be committed to running the ball. And I think it starts, they're going to try to run off tackle, but it sets up a lot of their complementary plays. The Rupel kid at quarterback is probably their best athlete, and he does a really good job handling the ball and fakes. They'll fake a handoff, and he'll kind of follow behind it some, and then he'll do some faking and then boot away. And him in space can be a problem because he's got good strength, he's fast, he's agile, and he's a smart kid. So that's concerning. They've got another set of plays where they fake handoff up the middle and they bring a wing back around. And 2 years ago, that gave us a lot of problems, and we worked really hard on it last year to make sure we could defend that, and we did a great job of it. So this year, it's still something they do. We got to make sure that we can be disciplined and play good assignment football. It's not really like an old triple option where you got to play, real disciplined rule football, but it's kind of the same thing. We got to have certain players assigned to certain things on those plays, and they can play action pass if you fall asleep. Now, they don't throw the ball much, and they haven't been super explosive, but when a team runs the ball that much, it only takes one play for your secondary to make a mistake, and they're wide open for a big gain.
You know that because that's kind of a little bit how you feast in the passing game.
Sure, yeah. It's kind of, this is going to be a little bit like playing ourselves, as far as schematically and philosophically what we want to do on offense. And defensively, they're kind of the same thing. They're going to gear up to stop the run. They're going to basically prevent big plays in the pass game and, make you work to score touchdowns. So they're a little bit different this year. They're not as big as they have been.
Right.
So they got smaller, quicker players at some spots, which that's given us problems in the past where, we've got big, strong kids and they've got small, quick kids, and that quickness can be a challenge for bigger guys.
Well, certainly, you guys have last year. I remember that first drive, Delta had some success, and you kind of rattled their cage a little bit and then shut everything down. But they really extended their drives. They really drained the clock. They ball controlled us last year over there. I think in that first series, if you recall, and they got that touchdown. I mean, we got the game under control quickly thereafter. But the thing that I saw that Delta could do, and I think you're seeing the same thing, if they get in these manageable second, third downs, they can control the clock.
Sure.
They can do some things and dictate tempo and all those different things. So that would be something I would imagine you guys are attacking the first down and getting them behind the chains a little bit.
Yeah, we put the film on from last year, and you kind of forget a little bit. We knew that they're going to drain the play clock. They're going to shorten the game up as much as possible, and as they make first downs, it really minimizes your opportunities offensively. I think last year they had 10 or 12 play drive, scored a touchdown. I think we ran 4 offensive plays and the quarter was over.
Right.
So, I'm sure that's probably going to be their philosophy. So we got to make sure we can get off the field and not allow them to keep moving the chains. And then if we can get some quick scores, we'll, kind of negate that, slowing the game down a little bit.
One of the things I think you have to always work against, and you get up for the big game against Archbold. You've got Napoleon early. Tenora's a traditional foe that have been very good. You just come off a PH game, and you have to go into an Evergreen game, and you're playing some teams that are struggling here down the back stretch of the season. How do you what's your strategy or your approach to keep these guys on edge yet healthy? You look to the playoffs a little bit. The way that's set up, you're going to play some teams maybe early that aren't the most difficult. As a coach, how do you keep these guys on the edge? Because you're not playing every single week is not a war for you. It's just not. And in this Delta game, if you play it the way you know you can, you should be able to control it. But if you take a nap, you could be surprised. How do you keep the kids on an edge?
Well, some of that is watching film the following day on a Saturday, and you look at, okay, we scored a touchdown in this play, but here's like 5 mistakes we made. And then, we actually go back and look at, here's what happened against South Range. Here's what happened against Cary 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
These are teams that beat us.
So you remember wins a little bit. I like that.
Because we got a lot of people, and deservedly so, telling these kids how good they are, how great they are, how well they played. And, we call that rat poison because it gets in your head and you think, hey, man, we're fine. We're right where we need to be. And the reality is we have to continue to get better because we make mistakes. We can't always look at the final product and say, well, we won or we scored a touchdown or whatever, or that pass was incomplete. Did we do everything correctly the right way? Because when you play really, really good teams, that's what's going to make the difference. Not, well, against Delta or Evergreen, they didn't complete very many passes or we shut them out or whatever. How do we do it is what's important. And we continually look at that on film and talk about the process. Did we do it correctly to get the outcome we wanted? Or was the outcome just, they made a mistake, not what we did? So we want to continually work on ourselves and make sure we're doing things correctly, because in those games when you play these really good teams, you can't just rely on, well, we're bigger or we're stronger, we're faster, we're more athletic, because we're gonna see teams that are bigger than us, stronger than us, faster than us, more athletic. Our fundamentals have got to be the difference.
So with a victory this week, I believe you at least tie for another league championship. I think it puts you at 9-0 with the victory against Delta, which goes back-to-back. League championships are hard to win here, and regardless, when you look back historically, it's got to be kind of exciting. You're on the cusp of doing that. This team is not going to, has a chance to be 9-0. This team has a chance to wrap up a league championship, or at least wrap up a tie, and start preparing for a very tough Wauseon team. So you've got to be happy with how this season has gone. I think we all anticipated success, Coach, but I think you're 2 in the AP poll. I think you're leading in computer points, or 1 or 2 there. I know our fan base is excited. Obviously, we'll be back out at Rex Lindgren Stadium, Kip Kernfield this week. We wish you a lot of luck in this game, and I know we're all looking forward to it.
Thank you. Hopefully we can keep things moving.